Boxing Features.
Hello and welcome to the Boxing Features Preview Show, the weekly series where I take a look at all the biggest fights for the upcoming weekend. It's a good week this week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button for plenty more Boxing Features content just like this. And without further ado, let's get to the fights.
Boxing Features.
First of all, I'm going to talk about Joe Smith Jr. versus Maxim Vlasov for the WBO light heavyweight title. And I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's an intriguing fight. They're both two in-form fighters, and they haven't lost in a couple of years. We look at Joe Smith Jr., who is probably the favourite heading into the fight, 26-3, only one loss coming by way of knockout. And look, his last loss was against Dmitry Bivol, probably the best or second best in the light heavyweight division right now. Since then, he got a split decision, but it was a good win against Jesse Hart and Elder Alvarez. We just looked down his career as well. His another loss coming to Sullivan Barrera, but he got that first round KO of Melvin Russell. He was the only man to knock out Bernard Hopkins, ending his career in 2016. A really, really good fighter, Joe Smith Jr., and an entertaining one as well. Then we just look at his opponent, Maxim Vlasov, 45-3, 3 losses again. His last loss come to Krzysztof Glowacki in 2018. We know Glowacki, after his loss against Lawrence Okoli a few weeks ago, again for the WBO, but this time for the cruiserweight title, Glowacki stepped up, or Vlasov stepped down rather, and his wins since then come to Omar Garcia, Isaac Chalemba and Emmanuel Marti. But we look down his career, he's had some really good wins, Maxim Vlasov, and a really good contender who is well in with a chance of beating Joe Smith on Saturday night. I think it's a close fight. I think it'll be an entertaining fight, and I think there could be some heavy shots landing. On the undercard, I also like F.A. Ajagba versus Brian Howard. F.A. Ajagba, a bright hope and a young new prospect of the heavyweight division. He's 14-0 now, 26 years old, and it's a perfect time for that step up in opponent. He's fighting Brian Howard on Saturday night, and Brian, a better opponent than F.A. Ajagba's been fighting so far. His last time out was a loss against Frank Sanchez, but if he comes through this, he's beat Shaundell Winters. If he comes through this though, F.A. Ajagba, then I want to see him get moved up pretty quickly, because I think he's really talented. Look at that, 14 wins and 11 of those coming by way of KO, and a lot of them early. Look at that, round 2, round 2, round 1, round 1, round 1, round 1. Yeah, so really talented young heavyweight, and I'm looking forward to seeing him on the undercard of Joe Smith Jr. versus Maxim Vlasov. Next, also in America, this time on Showtime, Jaron Ennis takes on Sergey Lipinets, and I think this is a really close fight, and I can see a lot of people underestimating Sergey Lipinets. We look at Jaron Ennis, he's a bright prospect, turning contender of the welterweight division. He's only 23 years of age, and look at that, 26 wins and 24 coming by way of knockout, but his defensive skills are also absolutely superb. Look at this. We look down his record. He hasn't fought anyone of serious note until Saturday. Sergey Lipinets, he is 16-1 and 1. His only loss comes to Mikey Garcia. He's a former IBF super lightweight champion, and he's got a great win over Lamont Peterson. His last time out, it was a mixed decision draw against Custio Clayton, but that weren't the best performance from Lipinets, but I think he will pose serious threat to Ennis. He's extremely aggressive. He's seasoned. I know he's only got 16 professional wins, 1 professional loss, 1 draw, but he had an extensive amateur background and kickboxing background, and it's a great test, and is a very live underdog against Jaron Ennis. Don't get me wrong, up to now, Jaron Ennis has been faultless in many ways. I've enjoyed watching him, but this is a big test and a good stepping stone for Ennis if he can come through it. Finally, we're going to talk about the big UK Sky Sports Matchroom show this weekend, headlined by Benn versus Samuel Vargas. We'll start from the bottom of the card. You've got John Hedges in his second professional fight against Stanko Jermalik. Hedges needs to kind of make a statement, as his debut wasn't the best at all. I have to admit, a lot of people said he lost that fight in Milton Keynes at the back end of last year, so we want to prove the doubters wrong, and he's only his second fight, so you can't write off this guy. He's incredibly young. We've also got the heavyweight debut of Nick Campbell, former professional rugby player, a Scottish heavyweight. There hasn't been too many high-level Scottish heavyweights in the past, so he'll be looking to make a name for himself, quickly rising up the ranks. He's taking on Peter Frokalik. And then we move up to really good fights, really. I'm really impressed. Shannon Courtenay versus Ebony Bridges is a cracking little fight with a bit of needle there. I love it. Don't get me wrong, it's a low-level world title fight. 6-1 and 5-0 for a world title, but that is women's professional boxing, as there isn't the biggest amount of depth. Obviously, there's this little triangle going on between Shannon Courtenay, Rachel Ball and Ebony Bridges. Rachel Ball had to pull out because of COVID. She still hasn't recovered, so hopefully she does and gets back to the ring very soon. She's been promised the winner because she was originally meant to be fighting Ebony Bridges last year, then Ebony Bridges pulled out, and then it was meant to be Rachel Ball versus Shannon Courtenay, then Rachel Ball pulled out, but hopefully finally we're here for this WBA female bantamweight title, and it's Courtenay versus Bridges. Can't wait for it. Don't know what that's going to go, but throughout the week and on fight night, I think you're guaranteed entertainment from this one. Then we've got Alexander Espinoza versus one of my favourite young British fighters, Cash Farouk. Good step up for Farouk, and a good chance to get his hands on the WBC International Silver Bantamweight title. And then Savannah Marshall in her first defence of her WBO Super Middleweight title. Late replacement, it's Maria Lindberg. We look at Lindberg, 19 wins, 6 losses and 2 draws. No losses coming by way of knockout though, and has fought a high level of opponent, Maria Edicare, Emma Kozin. So good high level opponents, and I hope that she gives Savannah Marshall a good fight, but I think Marshall will come through it with relative ease, because I think Marshall's absolutely fantastic. And then she needs to get on that microphone and call out, Caressa Shields, where you at? Let's make that super fight happen, because that is a fight that would just boost women's boxing. Main event time, Benn versus Samuel Vargas, the WBA Continental Welterweight title on the line, but I think it's a good bit of matchmaking here for Benn, and probably his hardest fight to date. I think Vargas is probably a step up from Sebastian Formella, who was a great opponent, tough as nails towards the end of last year. But Conor Benn was fantastic that night, and he will be looking forward to carrying that over against Samuel Vargas, a bigger name. We look at him, he's 31-6-2, but those 6 losses come to the highest of highest level opponents, only 3 knockouts, and we'll look who he's been knocked out by. Last time out, knockout against Virgil Ortiz Jr., one of my favourite young fighters in the world right now. A split decision loss against Luis Colazar, and then he took Amir Khan close. It was a unanimous decision in Birmingham back in 2018. Good fight. And then got knocked out by Danny Garcia. No harm in that whatsoever. Love Danny Garcia. Always been one of my favourite welterweights. And Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence. So, look at that. 3 knockouts. Danny Garcia, Virgil Ortiz, and Errol Spence. That's not bad, is it? That if you're going to be knocked out by anyone, I think they are the 3 people who you got to say, okay, I respect. These guys are elite level opponents, and it will be a great test for Conor Benn, and it will be a good chance to not only see where Conor Benn is at, it will be a good chance to see where Samuel Vargas is at in his career. He's 31 years of age. He's been floating around that contender status for a while, and he needs to make sure he don't go to that gatekeeper status. So we look at Conor Benn, 17-0, one of the most improved fighters in world boxing, I would like to say. That pro debut, a lot of people think this was going to be a gimmick. They were proved wrong. He keeps on proving people wrong, and he's slowly gaining that respect I think he deserves now. If he beats Vargas at the weekend, then we have actually got a welterweight contender on our hands. He's great for media, he's entertaining to watch, and potentially be another star, and not to mention the Benn name just adds to it. So really looking forward to this show, looking forward to see what happens. A lot of intriguing fights this weekend.
Boxing features.
That's all for the preview show this week. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comments, tell your friends about boxing features. Come back for plenty more content all around the world of boxing. We've got the preview show, we've got the review show, and everything in between. And as ever, thanks for watching.